Welcome to Newark Made, where we bring you the voices of the people shaping Newark's future. I'm Emily Manns, and today's guest is Anthony Frasier, an NAACP Image Award winner and Adweek's 2024 Podcast Innovator of the Year. He is CEO and founder of ABF Creative, a Webby Award-winning audio production company, pioneering multicultural storytelling in the podcasting world. A former NPR producer with over a decade in experience in tech and media, Frasier has worked with brands like Ben & Jerry's, Wondery, and Academy Award-nominated talent Sterling K. Brown. His innovative mini-pods, a 60-second educational show replacing school bells in over 100 public schools, are transforming how students learn. A proud Newark, New Jersey native, he's a nationally recognized voice at the intersection of media, education, and entrepreneurship. I'll also mention it's where we've been filming all of these wonderful podcasts of Newark Made. Thank you, Anthony.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for traveling so far to join us here on the show.
I know, it's a long journey, but I'm here.
From the back of the recording studio to the chair.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, before we get started, we'd like to ask a fun icebreaker question. And so I'm going to ask you, if your life had chapter titles, what would you call this current one?
Good question. I would call this one Perseverance.
Okay. Why would you say that?
Because there's a lot of roadblocks in entrepreneurship. There's a lot of hills, there's a lot of valleys, and a lot of times the only way to win is just to keep going. There's no secret tactic. There's no secret tip. There's not even money. It's literally just longevity, just staying in it long enough to get the win. And that takes perseverance.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So we've known each other for like over 12 years now.
Yeah.
You were working in tech.
Yes.
I was working in a similar role at Newark Economic Development. And you were really one of the first people I reached out to learn more about what was happening in tech in Newark, what was what was happening in Newark in general.
I remember that.
Yes. So I always appreciate that support and help kind of just getting started.
Yeah.
And all the great work we did together.
For sure. That was a beautiful time. It was nice. Newark felt like Silicon Valley a little bit. You know, everybody was trying to figure out how to make this city pop. And so it's so fun to see a lot of the same individuals that were doing that work kind of like really established now. So it's fun. It's
amazing. And we had little Build in Brick City. You were the face of the campaign. We had
I remember that. Yes.
That was good times. So can you tell me a little bit about, why you pivoted from tech to now media?
Yeah, good question. Yeah. So I was the entrepreneur in residence at Newark Venture Partners, which is a VC fund that was founded by Don Katz, who was the CEO of Audible at the time. And their office is literally located downstairs from Audible. So every day, you would see people from Audible come downstairs, and we would go up there and kind of interact with them a little bit. And at the time, they weren't doing something called podcasts. It was called something else. I think it was called features or something. And I just felt like not just them, but podcasts in general, and as it was becoming an industry. Podcasts have been a hobby, but it started to become an industry around that time. There weren't a lot of multicultural storytelling. There were multicultural conversations talking about the latest news or the latest pop culture trends, but there weren't a lot of storytelling and documentary style and fiction podcasts. So I felt like that was a gap that we can fill. And I was always inspired by the little skits I did with my brother in our house, trying to make rap songs. And funny enough, Redman, who's a Newark, New Jersey native, actually had skits on his album, and we tried to recreate them like Redman did. And I remember my skill set from then, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to try and do a podcast production company and see if I can service Audible with the stories that I feel like need to be told. And at first, Newark Venture Partners was like, hey, you're the EIR. You're not supposed to be doing an audio business. You're supposed to be doing the next big tech thing. but I felt so compelled. I felt so inspired to really make my mark in this industry. And so eventually they, came on to support it. But yeah, it was, that's the story.
I love that. Do you have any of those skits on tape with you and your brother? Or?
I don't.
No.
I don't. Thank God. Thank God.
I was going to say, we'd have to find one.
No.
So, all right. So ABF Creative got started in 2019. And you kind of allude to this, that podcasting wasn't necessarily what it is now.
Right.
Now it's, big industry.
Huge industry.
A lot of different podcasts out there. Can you talk more about kind of the gap that you were trying to fill and like what that need was that you saw?
Yeah, it's, for instance, one of the first stories that we had created was a podcast called Through Her Eyes. Okay. And it was about moms telling the stories of how they lost their sons to gun violence. We felt like gun violence on a national level was talked about, about the school shootings and things of that nature, but we're faced with a gun violence epidemic in our cities as well. And so we wanted to tell the stories, but from a different point of view, from the mom's point of view. What is it like to be a mom getting that call and going to the hospital or going to the street where something happened and experiencing that anger. And maybe if people heard that, there would be a little bit more of a sympathetic lens on the people affected by gun violence. And so that's what I meant by, like, how do we dig in and get those specific stories that are just told from just a different perspective. Another story that we did was called The Adventures of Cairo, which is about a little boy, and it's completely a 160. It's like more of a kid podcast. And we talk about his experience, and so we just love to just find those nuances in culture and put a spotlight on them. And we just didn't see much of that before.
I love that. And I think I remember when that first podcast came out, it was so important because it's not just a data point, it's a person. It's a person's entire life, their family's whole life.
One of the moms actually used the podcast to go to court and get justice for her son. Wow. So the killer of her son didn't get that many years. And so she took that to the parole hearing or something like that, and then she was able to get justice just from having them listen to her episode of the podcast. Wow. And so while that show itself didn't get a lot of downloads, I mean, you can't put a price on what we were able to do. So definitely. To me, that showed me that, hey, we're moving in the right direction. Yeah, that's amazing. And you've done other children's specific podcasts. Yeah. Can you talk more about that? It's really, really interesting. During the pandemic in 2021, we were all in the home and kids were staying home from school. And so we thought of like an idea to help supplement some of the lack of education a lot of kids were getting. And we remembered that African folktales was a way that a lot of ancient Africans taught lessons to their children. And so we thought, why not make a podcast where we're modernizing a lot of those ancient African folktales, throwing a little sound design on them, making them fun, making them interesting. We even created a fictional character called Miss JoJo, who's like the Black Miss Frizzle, and she's the storyteller. And we put it out during the pandemic, and the reaction was like nothing we ever seen before. Wow. We were doing podcasts for a little over a year, 2 years at that point. And then when we put African Folktales out, it became our most popular podcast within 3 weeks. Wow. We put out an episode one day and got 12,000 downloads in the first day. Wow. And we thought it was a fluke because, it's the pandemic and people are home and we're like, oh, we got the pandemic
Looking
bump.
for positive things to do.
Looking for positive things to do. But then the pandemic was over and the downloads kept coming. Wow. Then we put out another show and then the downloads kept coming. And so that kind of caused us to think about repositioning what we do at ABF kind of. One thing I learned from a business point of view is sometimes you don't get help unless people know how to help you. And before, not that I wasn't receiving help, But when we were just saying, hey, we have a Black podcast company, we're urban podcast company, a lot of people like, oh, that's great. You know, you're doing a great job. But once we said we were doing kids and family and touching on multicultural, then the advice and the help got a little bit more specific. Like, oh, you should talk to this person. Right. You should talk to that person. And then the world opened up to us. And we just made a conscious decision at ABF to focus on kids and family podcasts because this was an underserved lane. And not only that, we felt good about it. Like, we felt good about the work we were doing. Like, yo, we went home like, yo, we're changing lives. Like, we're helping kids and we're changing families. We're contributing to their routines every day. And it was just more fulfilling work. And so we loved it.
I love that. We've been together, this whole week working on this podcast. I've learned a little bit more about the business. And you mentioned earlier today that there was the podcast called Charm Words.
Yes.
That is in English and then also in Spanish.
Yes.
And it also had immense listenership. Yes. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, Charm Words gets about 100,000 listeners a month, and it's a daily affirmations podcast for children of color. But that was the intention. But now children of all backgrounds absorb it. We have moms from every race, creed, every background, talking about how Charm Words is part of their daily routine. So I read a book called The High Five Habit by a woman named Mel Robbins. And at the end, the book is all about how much a high five contributes to the self-esteem and the wonderfulness of, the day, of how it makes anyone feel. The book was for adults. So what we wanted to do was just build a 3-minute podcast where it just filled with impactful daily habits. So there's a monologue that's giving you some good knowledge. Then there's a breathing exercise. Then there's an affirmation session. And then at the very end, we do the high five.
Okay.
And you can high five your mom or someone next to you, or you can just high five yourself in the mirror. And we do all of that in 3 minutes. And it comes out every single day. So it's all about building healthy habits for children of color, because what we found out, this is a data point, that Black children who have some sense of self-worth when they go into school, they actually perform better, if not the same, as their white counterparts. So we wanted to create a tool that will help children of color go and do great and do better in school. But now we have a huge audience that it's not only children of color absorbing these charm words, but there are also, children of all backgrounds.
Wow.
And we decided to do it in Spanish. So we have a Charm Words Espanol as well, which was, one of the top children's podcasts in Latin America.
Wow. I love that. And is that, now there's something that you do related to a school bell, replacing a school bell with a brief podcast.
Yes.
What's that about?
Yeah, well, once I have a friend who's a great technology inventor. He does wonderful work. He has a company called Sonar Cloud. Okay. He saw all the work that we were doing with kids. He saw what we were doing with Charm Words, with African folktales. He saw all the accolades we were receiving and said, hey, let me hit Anthony up and tell him about what I'm doing. Okay. And so he had this technology called Sonar Cloud, which can take over the school bell in any PA system. It doesn't matter how old or how new the PA system is. He said, Anthony, can you help me create content for this system? And we came together and we created something called mini pods. Okay. And so what mini pods are, these 60-second educational podcasts. Twice a day, instead of hearing the school bell, kids will hear a fun fact, a science fact, a historical fact, or something just funny.
Wow.
Or interesting.
It's so interesting.
So we've done Black History Month, Women's History Month, Latin Heritage Month, science. We even did 1-minute scary stories during Halloween. Okay. So it can get really fun. And we ended up winning the Adweek Podcast Innovator of the Year award from that technology and that whole movement alone. Wow.
I mean, it sounds pretty innovative. I've never heard of that before today. So.
Yeah. We're talking to a lot of cool brands. Now brands are approaching us about potentially sponsoring some of these mini pods. Okay. And we're definitely looking forward to bringing them to Newark.
Yeah, that would be great. And I think you've mentioned something a couple of times now that I think is important for people is like speaking what you're doing into the universe and like what direction you're going in and like what you want. And then that brings like new partnerships, like this person like knew enough that you were working in children and podcasting that you were a potential good partner. And then it led to this amazing partnership, Innovator of the Year. Like, but if you've been kind of just like quietly, maybe we're going to go in this direction or not confidently saying I'm going to go in this direction, people wouldn't know to come to you.
You're right. Yeah. Absolutely. It's people know how to help you when you're very intentional, you're out there. And honestly, I'm going to be honest, I need to hear this a lot more because I feel like, I'm not saying enough about what we need to be doing and what we should be doing, but it's definitely, you're absolutely right. You have to be out there, you have to be talking, you have to be exposing yourself and what your business is doing.
No, it's really good. So you started ABF Creative in Newark. You're from Newark.
Yes.
You left briefly and did an accelerator in California.
I did, yeah.
Then came back to Newark. Where do you see Newark heading in the media production space?
I see Newark thriving in the media production space. You look at what Newark is doing in the film and television industry. That's going to trickle down directly into the work that we're doing. It's already trickling down. A lot of podcast deals are now being signed by Netflix. Netflix is taking podcasts and putting them on their service. Matter of fact, one of our podcasts, we've been approached by one of the streaming platforms to license the work that we're doing to appear on the streaming platform. And so there's already a gray area. There's already some cross pollination happening between digital media production and television production. That line is getting thinner and thinner each year. So as film and television continues to grow in Newark, that means I continue to grow in Newark. And so there's a direct correlation for sure.
That's great. We have a data point here that says there's almost 50,000 people employed in the motion picture and sound recording industries across the New Jersey, New York City region, metro region. It's growing.
Wow.
I mean, it's amazing. We actually were at the first ever Screen Alliance of New Jersey had their NJ Film Expo recently, and they expected 2,000 people, they told us, and there was 4,500 people there.
Wow.
So I think what you're saying is right on the money. This is a growing sector here in New Jersey, and then more specifically here in Newark.
I'm excited about it. Lionsgate building a studio here, Netflix building a studio not too far from here, but at the same time, Netflix is already contacting Newark. I had a call with Netflix not too long ago.
Wow. Talking
about, what Newark businesses can they bring down to help work on their campus.
Yes.
Collaboration. We all win. It's definitely a rising tide, lift all boats situation when it comes to the media industry. You just got to find out where you fit, and for ABF, it's definitely podcast production. And as you can see, we're on camera right now, so it's not just audio. So it's a mix of audio and visual talent. We do voiceovers. We can do behind the scenes. We can do a lot of different things, development. So it's all about just figuring out what are your specific skill sets and capabilities, expanding your capabilities even to fit what the film and television industry needs. And you can, if you do that adaptation, you'll find yourself a good fit there.
I love that. No, and we've had an excellent time actually working with ABF on this podcast. It's been really, really cool. So we always end by asking our guests to pay it forward. Can you shout out a Newark business that you really love and tell us why everyone should check them out?
Yeah, so I went to a holiday marketplace and there was a business there named Sprouts. And I'm trying to get healthy. I'm trying to lose weight. I'm trying to get in shape.
We all are.
And sometimes you got to go outside of Newark to get the juice shops. There's always these different, but when I saw Sprouts, I was like, oh, this is here? This is in Newark? And they're making fresh juices, and you can have you can buy a whole week's worth and kind of be on a plan and create a cleanse yourself. So I want to shout the owner. I still don't even know her name. I just saw her at this holiday marketplace. This is why it's important to go to those marketplaces. And now it's a business that I just support all the time. And their juices are so good. They're so good. And it's healthy. And so shout out to Sprouts.
Awesome.
Visit them.
Yeah,
for sure.
They're amazing. And they also have these like really cool like glass bottles. Like, and it's just a whole,
Yes.
They went to like Canada to source them. Like she's the real deal. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So shout out to Sprouts for sure.
That's amazing. So Anthony, thank you for sharing your incredible journey with us. You've proven that dedication to your craft can carve out a unique space, even in a competitive market. Today's conversation reminds us that Newark is home to world-class talent and global innovation driven by the dreams of people like you.
Thank you so much.
So don't forget to subscribe, share the episode, and come back for more conversations with the people who are Newark Made.